Now, first things first, Wuthering Waves will be its own game, and realistically, it should not be compared to Genshin Impact at all. I play one of Kuro Games' other titles, Punishing Grey Raven, and as long as Wuthering Waves focuses on things that PGR does right, I think it will be a good game. Having said that, to a lot of Genshin players who are looking for that next new thing, Wuthering Waves is seeming to be that Genshin killer that everyone is looking for. So I do actually think that it's a good idea to talk about things that Kuro Games can do if a month or 2 months after Wuthering Waves launches, they want to retain as many of those players who jumped over from Genshin just to try the game out, or maybe retain those players permanently, because let's be honest, a lot of people who are pissed at the lack of changes in endgame in Genshin are going to pick up Wuthering Waves in the hopes that it's going to be Genshin, but with everything that Genshin doesn't have. Now, this is by no means fair to Wuthering Waves at all, but that doesn't mean that people won't do it, and I fear it might cause most people to not give it the chance that it deserves and instead drop the game after a few weeks or a month to never return thinking it's just an off-brand Genshin. So I've come up with a few ideas that I'm sure the people who are developing Wuthering Waves have probably already talked about, since I'm sure they understand that Genshin is their competition. Now, the last thing I want to mention before we get into it is I don't necessarily relate to everything on this list, but I do try to listen to other people's concerns and issues with games like PGR or Genshin, because at the end of the day, I'm just one guy, and the sort of things that I like in a game won't necessarily relate to everyone else. For example, I don't really care if a game has the best rates in the world. If the game sucks, I'm not going to play it. But I've had a lot of conversations with people who play gacha games, and some will often use good rates as a selling point for the game. I don't really understand that unless we're talking about a gacha game with absolutely horrible rates. Then it's hard for me to justify playing a game that the vast majority of characters in it I might not even get to play or even build. So first up we have quality animations. There really is no argument that the animations for characters in both Honkai Impact and Genshin Impact are very good and typically very smooth, and the animations in Punishing Grey Raven have improved with time and look in general amazing. Like, these are some upcoming characters in Punishing Grey Raven that I'm really excited for, and their animations look incredible. But I've heard arguments where people didn't really give PGR a real chance because some of the animations apparently felt clunky. I don't really agree with this, and to me, Punishing Grey Raven has some of the best animations I've seen in a mobile game. However, animations are very important to some people, so I hope Kuro Games puts in the effort to make the first few free characters that we get feel very polished, as for many people just getting into the game, how well these characters play will tell them what the future of the game will be like. Again, this isn't really fair, but a lot of people do this because they don't want to waste a ton of their time on something that already feels clunky at the beginning, and they will probably even make that decision on day one. Next up we have endgame leaderboards. A lot of gamers and hardcore players especially like the ability to get ranked against other players across the world and try to strive to become number one. It wouldn't be a bad idea at all to allow players to compete against each other, even for slightly more rewards as you get higher up the leaderboards, for things like weekly challenges, guild bosses, or modes that Punishing Grey Raven already has, like Pain Cage, Warzone, and Tower of Babel. Kuro Games have the ability to create good challenges that players can rank each other against to allow people's competitive nature to take over and constantly make you want to get better and stronger. I might not be someone who thinks that ranking in gacha games really matters, since my opinion is games with an even playing field have a better idea of who really is the best player. But a lot of people like gear-based PvP and ranking. Some even see it as being more competitive, and most games these days have some kind of gear-based progression anyway, so leaderboards in my opinion would be a good addition. The next point we have is the Gacha System. As I've said in the beginning, I've had discussions with people in the past who will try to convince me to play a specific gacha game by using the argument, you should try this game out because the rates are really good. This has never really convinced me to play any gacha, but it's obviously important to some people, since if it wasn't, they wouldn't try to use it as an argument to start playing the game. And good rates don't necessarily always mean the percent chance to get the character either. Some people might say they're good just because the cost of each summon is low, or the pity system is really good, or the game is really generous with its premium currency. Good rates, generous pity, or a lot of obtainable free currency can be big selling points for a lot of low spenders, or maybe even some classically free-to-play players, if a small purchase actually feels like it might be worth getting. You know, things like the Battle Pass or daily sign-in rewards like the Welcome Moon or the Black Card Monthly Pass. Now, if you ask me, PGR's already got a really good gacha system, so they could just follow the same kind of system in Wuthering Waves and it would be just fine. But for the sake of an argument, let's say that they're going to copy Genshin's gacha system into Wuthering Waves, or at least a similar one. Let's go through an idea that would be a better gacha system than what Genshin currently has, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to go off Genshin's gacha system as a reference, since people are probably more familiar with it than Punishing Grey Ravens, and this bit will probably take some time, so feel free to skip ahead. So here we just have all of the basic relevant information to Genshin's gacha system. There's nothing about rates, as that would take a lot longer and would probably be infinitely more boring to talk about. What we are going to talk about instead is the ceiling for spending. So the 50-50 pity is 90 pulls, guaranteed is 180, one summon costs 160 primos. To get a single C6 5-star, you need to pull them 7 times. With all this information, we can get our ceiling values. Now, don't be freaked out by this number. This is just how many primos it would cost to C6 one character if you lost every single 50-50 and hard pitied every single time. The odds of that happening are like if your stars were about to align, but they got too close and crashed into each other and blew the fuck up. In this scenario, you are having a horrible day. Now, a lot of people like to make the argument that they should just take the 50-50 out of the game. If they did do this, obviously the amount that you would need to spend in order to max out a character, the ceiling would get halved, and Hoyo would probably freak out because that's a lot of income for them. So don't expect this sort of thing to actually come to the game. Let's just be honest, Hoyoverse isn't going to cut their own profits in half, and honestly, I wouldn't expect Kuro Games to do that either. So let's take a look at a different way of doing it, with a little bit of inspiration from how Punishing Grey Raven's current system works, or Honkai Impact for that matter. Just for reference, to max out one S-rank character in PGR, you need to get 1 copy for S-rank, 2 copies for double S, 5 copies for triple S, and 11 copies for triple S plus. Now, I might be wrong because I've never actually summoned for a triple S plus S-rank character. I'm only going off the amount of shards that you need in order to triple S an A-rank character. So in our example here, the pity values can remain the same, and we will use the ceiling values for C6 and the amount of characters you need to unlock C6 to work out the cost per summon. And these are the resulting costs for C0 and a single 5-star, and the Primogem cost per summon would be about 74.66. If we round the summon cost up to 75 per summon, it would be a nice whole number and the ceiling values would look more like this. There are other ways of making gachas better to interact with while still having the ability to sink a lot of money into it if that's what you want to do. But I really don't see Wuthering Waves failing with the Genshin audience just because of the gacha, unless they try to do exactly Genshin's gacha or something even worse. Alright, next up on the list is character and weapons skins. Now, this isn't really something that will sell Wuthering Waves in month 1 unless they come out with some kind of day 1 launch skin. But there are a lot of people that play Genshin who really want to see more customization for their characters. And after 2 years, we only have 6 skins for the 56 characters that we have. 57 if you include the Traveler. Now, PGR has a lot of character and weapon skins, and in my opinion, a lot of really good ones. And every character also has 3 progression-based skins that will unlock as they grow in power. But this doesn't mean Wuthering Waves will follow suit, since to a certain extent, Honkai also had a lot of skins, and that didn't influence Genshin at all, it seems. Kuro Games has the opportunity to get a lot of people on board with a level of customization that Genshin doesn't seem to want to compete with as of now. Now, next up on the list, I don't think Kuro Games will have a problem with at all, and that is hard repeatable content. A lot of Genshin's daily content can be summarized by this. Get on, do 5 minutes of daily commissions, spend 5 minutes using up your resin, and get off. I really hope Kuro Games does something along the lines of challenges or hunting, where players have something that they can do when they're completely out of resources for the day, and the rewards could just be completely random. Like, you could have a 99% chance to just get some random resources, but the other 1% of the time, you could get a single pull, or you could get a unique 4-star weapon that you can only get from doing these activities. Or you could get a universal 4-star constellation that could be used to upgrade any 4-star character of your choice. Whatever it is that they do add into Wuthering Waves, I hope it's going to be at least free and repeatable, so that people who run out of resources for the day have something to do and can keep playing and enjoying the game. Now, this next one is mostly my idea, and it's a little bit of a mix between Genshin's current world bosses and Monster Hunter, and that is different world bosses with different levels of difficulty. Try not to think of this as just add multiple bosses and give them all an easy, normal, and hard mode. More like how fighting Great Jagras in Monster Hunter is not the same difficulty as fighting Nergigante or Deviljho. If they do plan on adding world bosses like we have in Genshin, rather than making them all just easy since you need to beat them to progress, they should go down the road of progression in difficulty as you become stronger and more skilled. Like in Monster Hunter, how you start with the Great Jagras and you gear up to fight Anjanath, and then you gear up with Anjanath in order to fight Rathalos, and then you gear up with Rathalos in order to fight Nergigante. That sort of progression. Each world boss could give progressively better rewards based on that boss's difficulty, and if you're skilled enough or strong enough to beat it, then you can get the better rewards that it drops, rather than just waiting until you have a higher world level. For an example, let's use Genshin again. Let's say there's a world boss and it's a big Hilichurl, and they summon a whole lot of little Hilichurls throughout the fight until he's defeated. That's not really going to be that hard, but it's supposed to be an entry-level boss with some small rewards. Something to just get your toes wet as you're progressing through the early game. The next step up could be an Abyss Lector, who will summon 4 Abyss Mages around him, and they will constantly regenerate a shield around the Lector until all of the Abyss Mages are defeated. Still not a very difficult fight, but for mid-game, this will present more of a challenge for slightly better rewards, but the same resin cost as fighting the big Hilichurl. If I've noticed anything with Punishing Grey Raven, it's that Kuro Games really can create some interesting boss fights, and they really should double down on that instead of doing something like what Hoyoverse did and have multiple world bosses who all kind of do the same thing for the same rewards. I don't really know if this line of thinking is the right way to do it. Maybe Kuro Games has a better idea. I just hope that world bosses won't end up in the same boat as Genshin's world bosses, where at this point they can pretty much just sit there and you just slap them until they're dead. Now, next up might actually be a big ask, I actually don't know, but it's sticking with unique weapons. There are weapons in Punishing Grey Raven that can be used on multiple characters, but there are also weapons like S-Chrome's Gunblade or Rosetta's Spear and Shield that are only usable on those characters. In terms of being able to collect a few busted weapons and never needing to get another weapon ever again, sure, it's not that great to have a unique weapon system, but what it does do is it enables the weapon banner to be a lot cheaper, since each character's weapon does feel important to their kit, as there's not a lot of substitutes for it. For those who haven't played Punishing Grey Raven and are thinking I'm just an insane psychopath who wants free-to-play players to be constantly broke, this is the weapon banner pity counter in Punishing Grey Raven. It's only 30 for one 6-star, which is equivalent of a 5-star in Genshin. Not only that, but you can target or aim for almost every 6-star weapon in the game with an 80% chance to get the selected weapon that you targeted. From what I've seen so far in Wuthering Waves, all the characters in the game so far only have a few weapon types like swords, claymores, guns essentially being bows, and a few catalyst users by the look of things. So I'm starting to think that Wuthering Waves might move away from unique weapons like Genshin did with Honkai. This isn't really a problem, but if Kuro Games tries to do a gacha system similar to Genshin's, most people will probably just say, fuck this shit, I'm out, and go back to Genshin. In my opinion, you want to have a system where people want to pull for weapons more often by making the gacha not feel like absolute dog shit, and maybe even do something similar to the character gacha idea that I talked about, where rather than selling 5 weapons to get max rank, you instead sell 15 weapons in a step-up system. Selling 15 virtual weapons for $2,000 would be the same as selling 5 virtual weapons for $2,000. The only difference being you might not tempt that dolphin to spend to just get 1 copy. But whatever they do, I just hope it's better than Genshin System. Next up is again something that I would like to see mostly, and it is endgame single character trials. I might put a few links in the description to some videos that will sort of show you the challenges that I'm talking about. But in my opinion, single character challenges are some of the coolest content I've seen come from PGR content creators. It shows understanding of what you're fighting and understanding of the character that you're using. Wuthering Waves could make character trials that are specifically tailored to test your abilities with that character for some kind of cosmetic reward like a unique skin or a one-time copy of that character's unique weapon, or just a unique nameplate to show off to everyone. These would give players something to work towards and overcome, and finally something to show off their skills to other people with each character in the game. These trials could be anything to just test the limits of that character and your knowledge of that character, even if the entire fight is actually stacked against you. The next one is purely going off how Genshin's open world works, and that is high open world difficulty scaling. Now, this is probably not what you're thinking, but I'll use Diablo 3's difficulty as a reference. In Genshin, once you're at world level 8, that's as high as you can go, and all the bosses and mob levels in the open world don't really go past 93 I've seen. In Diablo 3, once you've gotten strong enough and beat the story, you would be able to unlock torment difficulties, and you could just keep increasing the difficulty of the enemies to stupid high levels, and you would get much better rewards if you could actually beat the enemies at that difficulty. Wuthering Waves could do this sort of system and allow us to fight much harder enemies and allow the enemies to keep up with our characters getting progressively stronger, with the only reward being a bit more of a challenge, but bosses and mobs could drop slightly more rewards and slightly more materials. And lastly, we have a bit of a non-issue, but it's something that I don't personally really like with Genshin at all, and that is combat experience being actually good. Around Genshin's release, I was lucky enough to get Venti, and I don't remember when, but not long after 1.1, I had leveled Venti up to 80 and unlocked his last ascension. And having done that, at the time, I was still very restricted on my resources, so I made the decision to just leave him at 80 and let him gain passive experience over time until I felt like maxing him. I ended up never feeling the need to max him out since he did his job just fine at level 80, so I just never did it. I also didn't have Venti in my team all the time, but when I was exploring or doing dailies, he was one of my most used units. So what is his level now? After 2 years, my Venti just hit 81 about 3 to 4 weeks ago. Compare that to a game like Epic 7 where I can level up my characters by having them leech off my hunt team, and they will reach max level in absolutely no time at all. The vast majority of my characters in Epic 7 I have leveled passively while farming gear at the same time. There really is no reason why combat experience should be so shit. And for people who would like to level up all of their characters, I hope that they would be able to do so, even if it means just being able to grind mobs for battle experience. Now, I do have more things that I would like to talk about, like artifact sets staying more like memories in Punishing Grey Raven, and instead of having a time limit as a difficulty for a fight, add an enrage instead, so that rather than feeling like you have to kill the boss in a period of time, you want to kill a boss in a period of time because it becomes harder to beat when it enrages. I could just keep talking about things that Wuthering Waves could have or should have, but at the end of the day, I have to be reasonable and try not to overhype the game for myself by placing any expectations on it. In my opinion, if Kuro Games just sticks to a level of design and gameplay that Punishing Grey Raven has, Wuthering Waves will be a really fun experience with fun challenges and awesome playstyles. My only fears for the game is that people won't give it a fair chance and ultimately they'll just see it as a budget Genshin, or they'll try to use it as a weapon against Hoyoverse by saying, if you don't make changes, I'm going to go play Wuthering Waves, but ultimately they won't, or if they do, it won't be for long because it's not going to be Genshin. So I do hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope this didn't make anyone angry or upset, as that's not my intention. These are just some opinions that I have. But let me know in the comments if you're looking forward to Wuthering Waves like I am, and also for my fellow PGR players, let me know if you're planning to pull for S Vera when she comes out, or Flare as a lot of people call her, because after a whole year of waiting, I for one am really hyped to finally get her in the team. As always, if you want to be a legend and you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, it is greatly appreciated. And if you would like to see more content in future, hit that subscribe button, it really does go a long way. But for now, that will do it from me. So until next time, YouTube, I'll catch you later.